Do you ban a Naja?
No.
Not quite. Naja ban
Different
worthy.
support.
We'll
I would
take
just
a
pick
look.
a different support.
Definitely need a different support, or at least a different approach to the game. The idea with the composition that Leftovers had, the Zeus and the Tier, two players that can really punish you when you go into, whether it's Raijin ultimate, Ares ultimate, one of these ultimates that really stops your mobility. These are two gods that are going to punish you for being immobile. So by taking the Ares approach into that situation, you can see Zeus and Tier picked very, almost last. That's very problematic for an Ares.
Especially when they had the Hui picked early on in their composition. Picking up the Ares at that point in time, you're basically asking to get focused. And because of the early build with the Magai's boots, with the Blink, the early aggressive strategy from EmilZy just wasn't there because of how much pressure Cherryo applied on him.
Same bands coming out from Cringe Crew, but they'll select Hou-Yi this time around. They don't want to see Arkkyl on that character anymore. But Arkyl's going to go for Anhur, which is even more Arkkyl in my opinion. And again, following up with the Bacchus, Murrdurr looked fantastic on that character.
It's a very old school composition between Bacchus and Anhur. You find the burp, and at the ending of the burp, Anhur can throw out that Desert Fury, expecting the belly flop immediately after. And this could be another strategy by Leftovers just to focus EmilZy.
Yeah, just a fight in the dual lane, which honestly, you don't really need to poke Murrdurr or Arkkyl to fight. That's what they want to do anyway. I mean, the man's name is Murrdurr. He changed it from Kanye Life to Murrdurr. He just wants to do that. Cringe Crew again get out Kuang. Didn't really do much in the last one. In fact, that'll be the 5th loss for out Kuang this year in the SPL. And just no attention was necessarily paid to out Kuang. He just didn't make it happen.
They had the strategy of the Neith out Kuang. They weren't able to exploit either of the side lanes really early on. We saw Tier fall behind around level 3 to 4. Great pressure from Zyrhoes, but because the neglect in the solo lane, I would say maybe you see Repikas start leaning towards that solo lane this time around.
I certainly think so. I think the soul lane is where Repikas start to go. Leftovers will get the Naja again, and Naja, very specifically the character, he's able to rotate the map very quickly because of the speed buff given to him by ring bounce, and he just gets he's a very momentum-based character. So if we're able to see the same 1, 2, 3 early ganks come out of Cherryo, the very same result could be on the cards for Cringe Crew.
Especially if they have a great mid god. It's going to be a Ra ban from Cringe Crew because that's great setup with Naja, and a Vulcan ban because that's more synergy with Naja. But Zeus is still available, and I wouldn't be surprised if Leftovers picks it again.
I mean, it worked out perfectly. Zeus isn't the #1 character when it comes to the setup. When you think of Naja, right, you think of gods like Ra and Vulcan, the initial one-shot. But, I mean, Zeus worked out because Naja found himself ahead and was able to do the majority of the damage. So when it comes into when the player comes down into the rainstorm, they just need 1 or 2 shots, and that'll seal the deal.
And sometimes you don't have to use the ultimate to be able to get the kill. You could just throw out the shield, get the chain lightning effect, find a lot of damage either way, and save your ultimate for the later stages of the team fight.
I think Cringe Crew's acquisition, the tier for Zyrhoes is a big deal. He'll be going into Sun Wukong here, and I'll ask you to break down that matchup a little bit. But the tier taken away from Nika, I think is an incredibly useful tool. One, Nika really controlled a lot of players in that game, using Fearless specifically, not just general solo lane tankiness. And that having that displacement available for Cringe Crew can really help even out their roster.
Especially trying to find more kills in the solo lane to get Repikas ahead. This could be a good matchup. Now, Sun Wukong will control it early on, but yet again, it's going to be a tier. You can't really outpoke him once he hits level 6 and 7.
Cringe Crew grouped up as 5 here, probably just accompanying EmilZy to go for the ward. So if anybody starts to get cheeky about the support play, they can go ahead and jump on him.
This is the typical invade you want to do with a Sobek Neith. You find the plug, answer the root, nowhere for you to go. Nika could be targeted here.
Pluck,
did he save a skill point, though?
Into the root, and that's just toast. First blood, very early on. Shaggyshenk.
Can we look at the Sun Wukong to see if he leveled an ability? He got the cudgel. That was the issue. Sometimes you level up the ability too preemptively. Didn't expect that invade strategy coming out of Cringe Crew. If he saved the skill point, he would have gotten the transformations and been able to ox on out.
Just sleeping a little bit?
not necessarily sleeping, but sometimes as a team, you have to always be worried about everything from the get-go. I remember when I was playing a lot, I would always evaluate the 1v1s in my mind real quick as the loading screen comes up. I'm like, all right, how is our 5-on-5 at level 1? How is theirs?
Right.
Is theirs more superior? Okay, we're going to respect it. We're going to look around corners. I'm going to save my ability.
Yeah, I think that's something that we used to see a lot more in Smite once upon a time, was the old 5-man group up into 5-man group up at level 1. Everybody groups up, and nobody fights, but just in case. And then everybody heads back to their individual buffs and lanes, and the game continues on. Cringe Crew go, hey, remember 2013? They group up as 5, and like you said, the classic Sobek Neith combo.
I remember 2032.
Who does not? Gotta remember 2032 now and always. But for now, it's the TheDarkDodo versus Mr. Kero in the same matchup we saw last time.
In the duel lane, though, Shaggyshenk got the first blood, so he's going to be able to get off a huge power spike, getting Warrior Tabby over Arkkyl.
And there's a flip into some of the damage from Shaggyshenk, knock up onto EmilZy. I like Murrdurr's choice to turn around and belly flop onto the Sobek there.
A little risky, too, because there's Shaggyshenk and 3 archers. A lot of poke onto Kero, forced to use the purification. Left side mid-Harpies, looks like it went to Dodo.
You know, a very important thing that comes out of that first blood for Cringe Crew is, or rather on the side of leftovers, is that it happened onto the solo later. Now, Zyrhoes and Nika have their own situation going on, and that'll be an interesting lane, especially knowing that Nika's down a kill. But the solo lane doesn't come into play until later. If you get the kill onto the jungle or the mid, then that can severely change the way the early game goes and almost wins you the early game by default because you have that mid lane pressure. Because the first blood comes out onto the support, the whole couple 3, 4, 5 minute mid jungle synergy, that's untouched.
Well, it also depends how the Cringe Crew exploit the solo lane matchup. With the Neith ultimate, with the rotation from Repikas, that could really start snowballing into Cringe Crew's favor. If you get an Wukong ahead too early on, now all of a sudden leftovers, they're the ones that are behind this time around.
Very true, very true, very true. It's all about how you're able to exert that. So would you, since Zyrhoes has the lead in this lane, would you have Zyrhoes rotate a little bit early, or?
I would say you just let Zyrhoes do his thing because he's a tier. He's not really going to die in a 1v1 or even a 1v2 if Cherryo makes the rotation. You're more looking at exploiting the fact that Shaggyshenk has that first blood over Arkkyl. You want to get an early Gold Fury as a result of that one small little play.
So as soon as the boots come online, expect something dynamic to come out of the guys from Cringe Crew. That's what we're seeing on Shaggy right now. He's going to go back immediately.
Boars are an option for him to go to, especially with red buff being timed on top of that. So Cringe Crew, they have a clear-cut strategy. We'll see if leftovers recognize it.
Cringe Crew off to a very slight lead, but like we've been talking about, it's less about the lead right now and what they choose to do with this opportunity. The full boots on a Shaggyshenk, clear power spike above his opposition, up above 400, believe it or not. 500 is the bounty for first blood, so a little bit has been bitten out by Arkkyl.
And that's huge in the duel lane because of you're sharing a wave with your support constantly in the early game. That makes it double the waves. Cherryo forced to use Purification and his ultimate away from that World Weaver and Repikas rotation.
Yeah, just 3 players from Cringe Crew going to surround the jungler. Has to use the ultimate. And that's, again, we talked about how successful Cherryo was in game number 1 because every time the ult was up, he was able to make a play with it. The first time he uses it here, defensively.
And now, because Kero, his Purification was used earlier on the left side mid-Harpies, now Cherryo was probably looking at Kero as a result of that, not going to find it. And Shaggyshenk right off the bat using his ultimate on the red buff.
So this is what you were talking about, just a small little power spike taking Shaggyshenk into looking for an objective. Red buff certainly an objective on its own. Shaggyshenk in trouble, stunned. There's the ultimate out of Arkkyl. Good knock-up coming out of EmilZy, and fantastic support play to save the Hunter and allow the jungle to come in. There's a smack, there's some damage. Repikas, he's got the ultimate, but he's playing it safe, and because he plays it safe, EmilZy goes down to the hand of the mid lane.
He wanted to save the life of Shaggyshenk, just zoned a little bit too hard. Arkyl's jump was down. They thought they could turn the fight around as a result of that, but over-ambitious, EmilZy taking a spill for the red buff.
Yeah, we see that from time to time. I think EmilZy did the job. He zoned out fantastically. Repikas going to go ahead and immune whatever Cherryo was thinking about there.
Great job using that stun to prevent the root also from Kero. Now forcing out the purification from this Kuang. Repikas has to be careful as Cherryo's ultimate is going to come back up.
Yeah, that's a big point. the sash comes out, and the purification is used anticipating the ult. Cherryo didn't even have it available because it was used defensively earlier on.
That's something you have to communicate with your team. Like, okay, he uses ultimate at this point in time, add 90 seconds to it. That's when you have to worry about his sash ultimate combination.
A lot of times we'll see players actually type in the chat, you know, beads or purification ultimate used at this time, so that you can go ahead and say, all right, we wrote down it was used at, you know, 640. 660 is actually just 7. But you know what I'm saying. They'll type it in the chat. They'll use that as an actual basis. So clearly not on the mark there with the internalization of the Cherryo ultimate. So now Cherryo with his little blue diamond available one more time. We'll see if he goes aggressive.
Especially with Gold Fury, that's another great timer to point out. Especially if you sneak it early on, you want to be able to constantly find the advantage, even if the enemies weren't there to spot it out. Now you're the ones that have the little mini map icon to your advantage, and you could position yourself with some early wards as a result.
Cringe Crew now, they took their lead and they were able to go ahead and sort of steal the red buff. What next?
Just more pressure in the duel lane. Arkkyl is in a bad spot against Shaggyshenk. He doesn't have the red buff. Shaggyshenk's red buff actually just expired, but still wants to play aggressive now.
There's a dash. I won't even say it was missed. I think EmilZy wanted to miss that dash and get safe into the jungle, to be honest with you. It was a very precarious situation for him to be. If he gets that pluck, he's surrounded by 3. Probably more aggressive than he needs to be. And we saw that happen on the Ares all game last time around, so has to be careful of that one.
Cherryo still looking for an aggressive play. Repikas purification is still down. World Weaver being channeled. Wants to try to find somebody.
Murrdurr trying to find a way in between the left and the mid. Can't decide on it just yet, so Cherryo just going to go ahead and avoid EmilZy. This has been a very slower paced game in comparison to the last one, and it's all about Cherryo. Game number 1, he was able to really dictate the pace of the game and do whatever the hell he wanted to do, totally, to be quite frank. This time around, already chased out, and now having quite a little trouble trying to get his feet underneath himself. Man, you don't want to fight either Hou-Yi or Anhur in the jungle. Both of these characters do very well with close quarters and sharp walls. So I think you saw. You got Arkkyl and he gets the impale and he's like, haha, and then he gets hit by a ricochet and goes, oh, right. Both hunters just sort of look at each other and walk right into lane and say, you know what, we'll take open spaces.
Cherryo gonna get focused out World Weaver and the dash. The purification not used and gonna fall right away.
Very quickly, you can see Cherryo said, all right, fine, target me, I'll turn around. Not gonna be the case. Boxing match between the hunters. One more shot does it and Arkkyl winds up on top.
Great job by Arkkyl. He had the wave to his advantage. I'm not really sure what happened there. Arkkyl getting the better end of Shaggyshenk in that one.
Yeah, Shaggy had the ultimate available, thought that was going to be it, but a couple of more shots were needed, and Arkkyl comes through with both the passive, and of course, despite the Ikeval being online for the Hou-Yi, he had just dropped the ultimate, so not really building up that passive.
Could have had an opportunity to back into base and finish that Ikeval before the 1v1 exchange because he still had a gold lead, and despite losing that 1v1, he still has the gold lead, so he has to be more careful about when he takes these little skirmishes.
Yeah, it's very important, and it's very important to internalize the little, whether they're a power spike or just a little power bump. And it's very important, especially this early on in the game, to be aware that, 10 damage, 20 power will actually swing things. Gold Fury being started, everything, full commit coming out of leftovers, and all Cringe Crew can do is watch Gold Fury going the way of leftovers, and that'll tie the game.
So leftovers, they get the Gold Fury, but they didn't even necessarily want it. They saw EmilZy dashed away, so what they were going for there, they wanted to have the ultimate being forced out of EmilZy to try to contest the Gold Fury just to reset, and then look for a team fight without lurking in the water. But because he didn't even thought that was a possibility for Gold Fury to be done, leftovers like, all right, you just gave us a free Gold Fury, we'll take it.
Yeah, no problem. And like I said, that'll tie the game up for the leftovers. They were trailing just a little bit, and that'll bring it right on down. So Cringe Crew, the early lead that they got from that sub 40, what do we call it, minus 40 seconds before minions spawn?
Something like that.
Yeah, the pre-40 second first blood. That lead was used to push into a couple of jungle invades, but now completely neutralized thanks to Leftover's snarky plan on the right side jungle.
Now Arkkyl is in a good spot, still level 10, barely now. Shaggyshenk just hitting level 11. He's tied with gold between the two hunters, so now he could still be in a good spot to continue on the little 1v1 exchanges.
Yeah, and that's certainly something that Arkkyl is all about. We've seen this guy, like I said, we've seen him before. He's not a rookie, and he always wants to fight. This guy is the fighter, and Anhur is the god for the fighters, which is why I was so excited to see him there.
With the passive as well as the items that he chose, he's definitely building into the 1v1 skirmishes. Arkkyl, he needs to find the right angles though. As long as he's going to be waiting in the jungle off of the rotations from Shaggyshenk earlier on, then that's going to be slowly and surely getting him in the lead.
EmilZy getting aggressive here again, looking for some sort of invade. The Neith ultimate's gonna hit, and there's the lurking in the waters. Cherryo's the target. Knock him on a Repikas. Cherryo gets knocked up as well, trying to find a way out, and he will meet it up by Arkkyl. Here comes the Hunter rotation. Backside EmilZy trying to be zoned out by the Zeus ultimate. He's not trying to, he's actually getting zoned out. And Zyrhoes in some trouble here as 4 players Leftover is gonna surround him, and they'll put him down. Nika gets credit.
Nowhere for him to go, and as a result, now Kero using the backflip, but Nika doesn't want to commit. The rest of his team is a little low, has to disengage. Very aggressive positioning, but look at this whole time, Shaggyshenk, he never rotated. He was able to invade the red buff and find an extra wave.
Yeah, big play for Shaggyshenk. That'll put him up a little bit higher than Arkkyl right there. And, you know, we make a bazillion and one jokes about missed ultimates being zoning ultimates. Perfect execution of an actual zoning ultimate in the wild. TheDarkDodo puts down the thunderstorm, and you're either going to walk through this and get 3 shots so I can detonate on you, or we're going to kill Zyrhoes. And we saw what happened.
Shaggyshenk force use purification as Cherryo found the stun. Now going to be another prime target in the mid lane. Dodo gets wiped out.
TheDarkDodo got 2 shot. Just everything combined at once, and the Zeus gets dropped like greased lightning. And I mean, even with the helmet, still thin as wet paper.
Just no purification, out of position. That's going to spill his death. Now a 5-on-4 advantage. Cringe Crew grouping up around the mid lane. They want to find a 1v1 in this duo.
And, you know, I mentioned even with the helmet, the Zeus went down very quickly. That's one of the benefits of having a magical jungler like Kuang. The helmet doesn't do anything against it. It's physical protection. So Kuang's still just as powerful as if there's no protection on Zeus whatsoever.
EmilZy in a 1v2, he should be fine. Not that much damage from Cherryo at level 10 Sobek. Now I'm really surprised, however, that Cringe Crew, they didn't extend their 1-player advantage, even though it's only level 11 Zeus that has a small respawn timer. The fact that there was 4 around the red buff from Leftovers, they could have played aggressively somewhere at least.
Well, Cringe Crew game number 1 got punished severely for playing too aggressive. Do you think that's the adjustment as our solo laners taunt each other?
As they always do.
That's one of my favorite parts about solo lane, which always surprises me. You don't seem like that type of guy, Totally. How does a guy like you survive in the solo lane?
I just listen to music and mute Smite. So I never hear the taunts, actually. But realistically, you just play your own game. You don't let that bother you. You have to be in a position where you can't be affected by words or anything. But Arkkyl going to get affected by Kero's ultimate.
And here, Shaggyshenk going to fall down as well. You were sitting there wondering, how did Shaggyshenk take that much damage? It was Cherryo right behind, just tunneling damage into the player. And yeah, I mean, we saw Arkkyl get low. As soon as he hit 25%, it doesn't really matter what Shaggyshenk's going to do. He's going to find a couple of more basics, and then Neith. Anytime there's a Neith on the map, you are never at 100% HP.
Have to always take into consideration the global ultimates, whether you're solo 1v1ing or in the hunter position as well.
And that's I wanted to elegantly transition from the solo to the hunter. Instead, we just got a devastating fight. Watching the individuals go back and forth is something that you see most of the time in the solo lane, but happens in the hunter position as well. You can see this Cringe Crew assassin force going to be spotted by the mid laner.
I like the idea that Cringe Crew had. They had the exact timer of the red buff during the earlier invade, and because they had about a 5-second window, they just waited for Dodo to maybe poke his head around the corner.
Yep.
Whether, if he did, they find a kill. If not, we're still in position to go for the red.
And that seems to be what Cringe Crew are doing the majority of time during this game, Anatoly, is we'll be aggressive if leftovers, Cringe Crew will be aggressive if leftovers give it to them. Like here, like before. Cherryo goes underneath the target. That's problematic for him and his team. There's the Thunderstorm, and that'll chase Cringe Crew out. And a good disengage coming out from the guys, but still, so much damage done by Dodo right there.
3 members in the yellow for Cringe Crew. Shaggyshenk smells something out, trying to find Mark of the Golden Crow through the wall. Not going to find it, but look at this. Leftovers forcing the gold. Nobody here from Cringe Crew.
Shaggy's going to show his head. It looks like Zero certainly will. He gets stunned out by Cherryo. Zero's still here. Gold Fury being aggressed on. Gold Fury goes the way of leftovers, but Cringe Crew want to fight about it. Down come the Suns. Leftovers retreat, and Cringe Crew can't catch up.
Not going to be able to find any return kills or objectives. Repikas going to find Cherryo with a little bit of poke. 3 members in mid for Cringe Crew, but they're a little low. I don't think they can really push the situation.
Yeah, not much for Cringe Crew to really do right there and really accomplish much, to be honest with you. They just sort of show their faces in the mid lane and then walk away and do whatever the hell it is that they want to do. I love how EmilZy made the adaptation. Last time around, he got in trouble for building Magi's boots, and then was like, okay, maybe I should do something different. This time, tank boots, sovereignty. I mean, this is tanky Sobek.
And to be fair, a Sobek coming from the Guardian role instead of the solo lane role, it's probably better off that you go tanky just to be able to stay in the back line and find the constant tail flips, find the plugs, and gonna get poked out a little bit, but just gonna dash away under the safety of his tower.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things. I mean, even on the Sobek, we'll see the power boots once in a while, but still the tank boots, certainly a good option, because when you go charge prey, you're intentionally putting yourself into harm's way.
It's all about surviving the initial burst from the Naja Zeus combination. He didn't do so great in the first game as a result, despite having Ares bolster defenses. Maybe that's why he went the Magi's boots, because he relied on that second defensive ability.
Certainly makes a little bit of sense, and so does a Spirit Robe. I expect to see that as a 4th item for this Sobek here. We'll see how that one works out. Finally, Cherryo finds a target for his ultimate, but he's going to come down surrounded by members of Cringe Crew. Not the same situation he's used to. And a quick flip, and Zero's able to take him out. 3-on-2 here, ultimate out of Zeus. EmilZy still lurking in the water. Is going to pop up for big damage on Nika, but the turnaround not going to happen. And Cringe Crew find themselves up a single kill and up 1,000 gold.
No panic from Cringe Crew during the ultimate of Cherryo. Kero was taken up into the sky, uses Sanctuary right away. Zyrhoes, however, could get focused, but Nika, after that World Weaver, forced to use his own.
Ultimate out of the Sun Wukong will give him an extra life there. And again, Cherryo finally makes an impact with the ultimate, but surrounded by the wrong team. Last game, we saw that time and time again with leftovers waiting at the bottom. Now we see Cringe Crew waiting at the bottom, and Arkkyl gonna jump away right into the over the ultimate. Almost thought Shaggy had him there.
So close. Not finding that secondary stun. It looks like the Sanctuary was actually used by Arkkyl just to be able to survive that. So now, winning the 1v1 now, and probably going to win it next time around without that important relic from Arkkyl.
Right, I mean, that was just barely enough to save him right there. Still had a sliver of HP, so if Shaggy's going to take that, or if Arkyl's going to take that fight down a level and down 500 gold or so, I mean, that's gonna hurt.
You also have to be so careful about how you position your character and your camera angle, because we saw Shaggyshenk come from behind Arkkyl, finding the Mark of the Golden Crow into the ricochet stun, immediately poking out Arkkyl.
EmilZy going to take this tower, and Shaggyshenk will show up, deal some damage as well. Cherryo will turn and burn on the Guardian. This will likely be a dead EmilZy, but the tower's already done for. Cherryo gets knocked up, and it won't be. EmilZy finds the exit. Arkkyl trying to find a damage onto Kero, but can't. Zyrhoes is the target, but he's tanky as well. Everybody on Cringe Crew just too tanky for leftovers to deal with as they lose their tier 1 mid.
Dodo did so much damage in that team fight. Cherryo was able to survive with that Sanctuary. Once he came down, he recognized that, like, okay, I'm going to take up EmilZy into the sky, and I'm going to get turned on. I have to Sanctuary as soon as I come onto the ground. Zyrhoes was doing a great job flanking, zoning out a lot of members from leftovers, and that gave the tier 1 tower to Cringe Crew.
Shaggyshenk and Arkkyl here. Both players still ready and willing to fight. Wave has to go down first. Arkkyl has a little bit of the pressure in the lane.
Red buff for Shaggyshenk, so he should be able to control the little 1v1 skirmish, but it looks like Arkkyl wants to allow just for more fun. The boards are up, just take it instead.
Yeah, just stick in lane. We see his opposition opted to go back to base. Cherryo doesn't know that, though.
Finishing off the chin size for Shaggyshenk, and now Arkkyl gonna squeeze in this wave. Golfier respawning in about 40 seconds. Leftovers and Cringe Crew, they both have the timer, but it seems that Leftovers are always been on point with these Gold Furies.
Cherryo backs to base, and if he buys quickly, he should be able to make it back in time for the spawn of the Gold Fury. We'll see if that's going to be the choice for the Leftovers, or if it's going to be Cringe Crew, or neither.
Arkkyl elects to stick around. Golfier respawning in 20 seconds.
And you can see Leftovers staying local. Bacchus wants to see if Cringe Crew wants to see if Leftovers are going to be there.
EmilZy looking for a potential pluck with Repikas lingering around left-hand side. Arkkyl could be in a little bit of trouble. Repikas wrapping around behind him.
Yeah, it's all about Repikas's pathing here, but Repi walks right over the ward. A sentry ward, nonetheless. So Leftovers know they have the vision.
Great positioning. Cringe Crew still looking for something. EmilZy trying to set up Kero with a nice route.
I'm really looking at the mid jungle. Leftovers don't commit to this Gold Fury until Cherryo and Dodo really show up. Cringe Crew going to get rid of some of the vision here as well and start at the Gold Fury.
And now it's this time finally Cringe Crew forcing the situation. Zyrhoes doing a good job zoning so far. 4 members of Leftovers are here between left and right hand side.
Well, everybody's ready. There's a group up, red buff taken, going to Dodo. Gold Fury being aggressed on, EmilZy finds a flip, but there's a pillar. Nika tossed into the wall. Ultimate out of Zeus comes down a little bit early. That's going to hurt Leftovers.
They're just trying to zone because EmilZy's out of position, but it doesn't matter. He's so tanky, doing a lot of damage. Cherryo going to negate it with the sash, forcing out Kuang.
Arkyl's going to drop the Suns as well. Dodo in trouble, pushed into the wall. Zyrhoes gets credit. Well done for the tier player. Nika, he's stuck as well, uses the ultimate to barely get out of jail.
And now he's thinking about going back in, but they don't have enough damage to really commit. Nice forcing the purification, juking out the ricochet. Murrdurr in a lot of trouble, getting plugged back in. He's going to fall.
Kero gets the kill. Arkkyl avoids problems with use of the relics, and Cringe Crew winds up on top of this team fight. They win it 2-0. And Cringe Crew looking towards the Gold Fury. If anybody really wants to make a point here, totally, it's just not going to happen.
Cringe Crew, they want to make sure they walk away with at least 1 point in this series, and so far, this is their time to really establish their first real lead of the game after this Gold Fury.
Yeah, you can see Cringe Crew get off to a lead, Leftovers equal it out. Cringe Crew get off to a lead, Leftovers equal it out. Cringe Crew get off to a lead, and then Cringe Crew get off to another lead this time around. So about 4,000, 5,000 gold. Well, yeah, about 5,000 gold or so coming up above Leftovers, and a very good play. 3,000, my mistake. A very good play for the guys on Cringe Crew, and really Leftovers, they have to make sure that they can neutralize it one more time.
They have to make sure they don't stick onto EmilZy the same way they did in the first game, because this time around, the Sobek has the shell and meditation as opposed to the Ares that only had blink and shell.
And he's also much tankier just in general.
He has a sustain with his sickening strike. He went for the reinforced greaves instead of Magi boots, so he's, like you mentioned, going to be more resilient. And that's a reasoning why Dodo threw out his ultimate that way, because he wanted to basically 1v5 EmilZy, get him out of the team fight as quickly as possible.
And just on the Sobek as well, he's also slipperier. Was it you and I that had problems with that word, or was it Adonis?
I think it was Adonis.
Yeah,
but either way, yeah, he's pretty slippery.
See, you got it too. It's tough to say.
It's a cast or curse, man.
That's just not a word we're going to use in the cast anymore. But my point is, between tail whip and charge prey, he gets out of problems, just like Sun Wukong going to use the ultimate to get out of problems right there. Repikas still waiting on the bottom, but Nika finds an exit up north.
Cringe Crew being very patient, not committing to the kill onto Nika on the left-hand side. Arkkyl very low with red health, forced to use the Sanctuary. Now it's Shaggyshenk that's on the better end of that 1v1.
Love the play to Shaggy. Drops the Suns and body blocks Arkkyl to make sure he's stuck in the ultimate. Arkkyl wants out, but he literally can't walk through Shaggy. Well done, well placed. That's what secures the kill for Shaggyshenk on the left side. On the right side, his team going to secure a tower.
Cherryo finding a stun, but not using the ultimate quite yet. Taking a lot of poke, gonna get flipped back in and barely escaping. Repikas is in trouble.
There's the ultimate from Zeus. Down goes the Trucker Hornet, down goes the Jungler. EmilZy in trouble as well because he's trying to play defense, but everyone from Leftovers got him in their sights. Up to the sky goes the Croc, down comes the Croc, and he gets hit, but he's still not dead. Dodo finally helps out Nika confirm the kill, but here is a healthy Zyrhoes and a healthy Kero. Everyone on Leftovers is low HP.
Finally finding the kill onto Dodo. Nika comes back into the team fight. Kero's really low. The rotation from Shaggyshenk just wasn't there. He trusted his teammates to be able to win that fight, but they weren't able to, so he doesn't even get a tier 1 tower out of his 1v1 win.
Well, he's going to look towards the mid lane, but there's the there's Arkkyl coming up the mid lane as well. So, yeah, the 1v1 just doesn't prove fruitful for Shaggy.
No, that's something that you have to be able to do. At least split push during the meantime. You found the 1v1 win under your own tower. There was a 4-on-4 on the right-hand side. You utilize that one-player advantage. Either group up with your team or commit to the split push.
The upside is for the next time you'll have a level 20 Hou versus the level 18, likely 19 Arkkyl, as the Anhur still going to continue farming here. But just having that lead a little bit for Shaggyshenk might help out, especially when you consider that's going to be the last point in the Suns, and what a big tool that has been so far for the guys on Cringe Crew.
With red buff and the Sanctuary being down on Arkkyl, Shaggyshenk can still remain on the aggressive side of things, doing 130 damage per shot on this tower.
Yeah, and almost taking it out. One more shot should pretty much do it, but he'll be chased away by Arkkyl. 1 or 2 more shots should do it.
EmilZy doing a great job being a mobile ward for Shaggyshenk, spotting anyone from Leftovers coming around the jungle side.
And it was 4 players from Leftovers coming around the jungle.
Repikas on the backhand side forced out the ultimate from Dodo, lurking in the water. Dodo doesn't have relics to survive.
He's just going to get taken out. That's 10 in total for the Cringe Crew. Cringe Crew find themselves in the enemy jungle. Already into the ultimate is Nika. Zyrhoes gets testy, flipping forward. There's the hit on a Murrdurr right into the wall, and the support going down. Kero finds the shot from a distance.
That's 2 for Cringe Crew that they so desperately need to win this game, find a point into their set, and now Shaggyshenk does make the rotation. 5-on-3 for Cringe Crew. They're going to go for this tier 2 mid.
Yeah, they've got a large grouping up here. It's 5-3 as far as the player numbers are concerned. The wave coming in, that'll cut out the backdoor protections, and Shaggy, like you said, 130, 121 onto this tower, just wrecking it.
Now switching their sights over to the left-hand side. Tier 1 is very low. Gold here respawning in about 20 seconds. There's still 5 and 8 seconds for Murrdurr to come back.
Cold Fury going to be spawning here just a little bit. 25 minutes into this game so far. Cringe Crew find themselves up 5 kills. It's 11-6, folks, and they're also up in gold. About 7,000 gold. Leftovers senior, and they're going to look to stretch that even more so. Leftovers are aware, though, but here comes Zyrhoes, the zoning robot, and nobody is able to look anywhere near the Gold Fury. Down it goes, and that'll stretch the lead all the way up to 8,500.
So now, Cringe Crew, dominant lead, 26 minutes in. This is where the action is going to shift from the left side of the map over to Fire Giant on the right. It's up to Leftovers to try to find somebody out of position while the wards are starting to get placed.
Yeah, that's the final 25 minutes. That's pretty much the final Gold Fury. Now, I don't mean the final Gold Fury, the actual objective being taken, but the final Gold Fury dance. A lot of the contesting, a lot of the dancing and the fighting and the positioning is going to be around the Fire Giant, like you said, on the right side of the map. So a lot of attention is going to be paid there, specifically between our 2 teams.
Cherryo and Dodo really have to sync up and find somebody out of position, but it's easier said than done. This is something that Cringe Crew are going to recognize, try to get them into combat, not allowing any sort of shenanigans from the side either.
So Kero's been very, very noisy. 5, 0, and 3. He's been involved in a lot of these kills. And a lot of it, it's not just Neith snagging a kill with the ultimate. I've really been impressed with his spirit arrows and his ability to get multiple people with him because of his attention to the weaves.
Well, he did find that 1 kill onto Arkkyl on the left-hand side during the 1v1, but mostly it was a lot of setup from Murrdurr and Cherryo. I'm sorry, not Murrdurr, EmilZy
right.
on the left-hand side of your screen. So he was getting set up quite easily for all these in-hands. He found some swag backflips as well.
Fire Giant being started here by Cringe Crew, and his Leftovers show their face. Cringe Crew reveal that they really just want to fight. Kero just teasing the ultimate, not going to commit to it. EmilZy looking for a flip target. Can't seem to make up his mind. Zyrhoes here playing protection for EmilZy. There's the blink Fearless, but just the blink portion. Fearless going to miss.
And that's going to give Leftovers the potential to start this team fight now. They don't have to worry about that engage from Zyrhoes. The Lawbringer, however, is still a big threat, so they still have a big engage from Zyrhoes.
Yeah, the Lawbringer over the top, it's easier to see than the blink, but when it lands, it's going to slow everybody that it hits, and that becomes a very scary situation for the Leftovers, as everybody on the side of Cringe Crew can really capitalize off of a slow.
Sometimes it's not a bad idea just to engage with your Lawbringer anyway, because you want to force out those early relics anyway. You're going to find the slow one landing, and then we're going to find a team fight. EmilZy doing a great job zoning.
Finding the flip, and the Suns are coming down, zoning out the rest of Cringe Crew. Zyrhoes by himself, looked at the stun Cherryo, tried to find the damage, but can't, followed by Murrdurr. Standing your screen, different fight altogether. 3-on-3 as the fourth left out on the backhand side. Murrdurr still being aggressed on by Zyrhoes, but here comes the rest of Cringe Crew. There's the flip, and that'll be that.
Not going to commit to the kill onto Murrdurr. Lawbringer was used. Zyrhoes was doing a good job zoning away Cherryo in the earlier stages of this team fight, but it just lasted a little too long. Wasn't able to come back in as the rest of the team fight was happening between that tier 2 entryway.
Yeah, we had multiple team fights. There was a 3-on-3 going on in the middle, and then Zyrhoes was doing Zyrhoes things on the other side, chasing a tank. It was very, very discombobulated. And now Cringe Crew trying to find a one certain target. EmilZy's going to serve somebody up.
They're just going to give it up. The Fire Giant is at less than half health. Shaggyshenk is soloing this completely. EmilZy and Zyrhoes doing a great job zoning. The Pluck going to come out, but doesn't have lurking in the water. He's taking a lot of return poke.
And that's problematic. EmilZy down to a quarter of HP. Both players, both Arkkyl and Kero, jump away from each other. Looks kind of cute. But Cringe Crew, they got themselves a cute new belt. 69,000 gold above Leftovers, 59,000 gold, and the Fire Giant. Cringe Crew opting not to back to base just yet. They want the tier 2 tower right now.
They're going to be able to spend a lot of that gold. They shouldn't really push their luck onto the right side Phoenix before they get some more towers. We see Repikas with about 2,100. He's going to be able to finish off an item or two after he sells off that Bummer's Mask, getting a little bit closer to the Soul Reaver.
Yeah, Cringe Crew now finishing up, like you said. We see the Odysseus bow coming out for the mid lane Neith. A lot of crit coming out for our Ho Yi player, also picking up an Executioner. So a lot of late game items really being finished here coming out, and will allow Cringe Crew to make the end game push.
A lot of confidence as well from EmilZy, going for Mail of Renewal, expecting that his team is going to be the one to start winning these team fights right off the bat with an early kill or an assist. He's going to regain some health, and he's been doing a great job zoning for the most part. He forces out the ultimate from Dodo early on that he tries to dissect the team fight into 2 stages, but doesn't matter because EmilZy is so tanky.
EmilZy with the mark of the MLC of Renewal, as it was once called. The Mail of Renewal is an interesting choice, because you said expecting to be up on top. If you're not winning, the Mail of Renewal allows you to snowball throughout the team fight, sort of waterfall and keep you up. But if EmilZy finds himself getting aggressed on and down early on, it's going to be a non-factor.
Absolutely, but it's going to be problematic for Leftovers because now Cringe Crew have the Fire Giant. EmilZy leading the charge with Zyrhoes on the right. Shaggyshenk and Kero trying to siege on the Phoenix.
Got to be careful with Cherryo flying. Cherryo's still here. That's why Zyrhoes is out there playing bouncer. EmilZy going to knock 2 players up, finds Murrdurr, tosses him in, and he's gone very quickly. Down comes the ultimate out of Zeus. Here comes the rush forward, but Cringe Crew have the positioning, and they've got the Firebird moving over to mid.
They have 5 against 4, and they don't have a Zeus ultimate on the side of Leftovers. Cherryo's ultimate not on the mark, gonna get turned on. Sanctuary buying him a little bit of time, but with Lawbringer gonna be able to barely escape.
Repikas here as well, trying to find the lurk kill, won't be available, but the mid lane Phoenix certainly does fall down. Right side being shifted over to by Cringe Crew. All 5 players ready, willing to fight, and ready. And in fact, they want to fight. There's the blink forward, pushing 2 players directly into the Cringe Crew. Down goes one. Nika finds the ultimate, but he's just as good as toast when he falls. Dodo forced into the sank by Repikas's damage. Knockup coming out of Nika. 3 players to defend. This looks familiar, but our teams are switched. Cringe Crew come back in game number 2 onto the Titan. Shaggyshenk bringing out the damage. Dodo answers back with a kill from Leftovers, and this could be a defensive set that will push Cringe Crew off the Titan.
Cringe Crew still being very patient. The respawns are coming online from leftovers. Have to retreat. EmilZy might be caught in an awkward spot. Does get flopped on. Nobody really here to save him.
And there's Zyrhoes pushing down Murrdurr. One more time, the Bacchus going to be taken out. EmilZy able to take out Nika. And this looked like a perfect defensive set from leftovers. One they could turn into a couple of towers. But Cringe Crew get their sustain from the fire giant and turn it around just a little bit. Still fighting for the end.
Great sanctuary used by Shaggyshenk, but it wasn't enough. The Titan still being aggressed on Dodo, trying to survive with his ultimate. Titan does get reset, so his life doesn't go in vain.
Repi gets a kill and a follow-up as well. Still, 3 players alive for Cringe Crew, and perhaps the important ones. Arkkyl's going to immune the pull, and that's it, folks. It was a good defensive try, but leftovers lose the Titan, and Cringe Crew wind up with the split.
So yet again, both of these teams are still tied. It's going to be at the bottom with 1 point each, and I would say overall, great improvement from this set for both teams as opposed to their last previous ones.
Absolutely, Anatolian. This also was just plain fun to watch. I enjoy watching teams make the adjustment and come right on back. Leftovers kind of just, I mean, they were in the driver's seat and they drove us wherever the hell they wanted in game 1. Game 2, Cringe Crew said, all right, EmilZy got in trouble, so we'll change his build strategy. Repikas didn't do much, we'll change his assassin strategy. And made the rotations, made the adjustments, and find the win.
Just great adaptation. We saw the Cringe leftovers, they still wanted to do the same strategy with the Zeus and the Naja, but it didn't really work out in game 2. And just great positioning overall, whether or not it was Repikas avoiding the Naja stuff, as well as Kero underneath.
Again, the adjustment, Zeus and Naja. Naja goes up, comes down, and well, the entire team is waiting. This time, the adjustment was made by Cringe Crew, and Cringe Crew was waiting for everybody at the end of the Naja ultimate. Kero, he played a fantastic game in game number 1, but lost despite his performance. Game number 2, he was able to bring it home for the team.
He found the ultimates that he needed to. The setup from EmilZy was good enough to connect onto those clutch spirit arrows, even through the wall.
Yeah, look at the amount of damage he's able to do, just watching players get deleted. Here's an ultimate play, and watch. That's a kill that doesn't happen without the Neith ult.
And he's just being able to be led by the front line of Zyrhoes and just constantly getting juggled, whether or not it's EmilZy or the tier. It was a great composition coming out of Cringe Crew, the displacement between those 2 frontline characters.
And Kero might have been the one bringing the damage, but like you said, really just set up by everybody else, and just fantastic set. What a nice set to really close the day on. 2 evenly matched teams coming out playing good old-fashioned Smite. That's going to be the end of our games today, but our SPL calendar continues tomorrow with some more North American action. Sword's going to start off the day taking on Envy, and then we'll see Enemy go head-to-head with the Dogs.
And then we're going to see Randozos take on Eager, that have yet to find a win in their last set against Enemy, where it's Luminosity against Allegiance, who's also been a little struggling.
Yeah, LG versus ALG. That's a really interesting matchup for me. I enjoy watching these guys go head to head. I think they are theoretically similarly skilled, but LG really brought it last time.
Well, we're going to have to see. That's going to be the last game of the day for tomorrow. That's going to conclude us here for today. For F. For myself, for Adonis and Hindu Man, as well as Peckies. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
See ya.